Hello fellow RPG makers and welcome to another video. In this video I will be teaching you how to do the event commands, not through these clicks, but through the code. Because for example, if we have an event like this, we have a lot of if cases, else cases, and we have show choices too. It can easily create a bloated event page that is difficult to read and orientate in. So the script calls might make it easier, and they might also simplify some more complicated event stuff. Nevertheless, before we jump into it, I have 3 disclaimers. First of them is a shout out to Standard Player who requested this video, and if you have any requests yourselves, feel free to leave them in the comments. The second disclaimer would be that I won't be going chronologically from here to here, but for example, if we take a look at the page 1, we have show choices, but there are some things that are later below. For example, it could be useful to learn jump to label first before show choices, so instead I will rather be going backwards, and not even fully backwards, because for example it makes no sense to start with this when we have battle processing here. But I will start on the page 3, and let's see how much I'll make in one video. Maybe it will be 3 video series, maybe it will be just 1 video, but I don't know yet. And the last disclaimer would be, I won't be teaching you any theory regarding JavaScript. If you want to learn JavaScript, there are plenty of free tutorials out there, and I want to make this video as accessible to those who don't know JavaScript as possible. So if you find some JavaScript stuff you don't understand but would like to understand, or if you get inspired to learn some JavaScript, feel free to. As I said, there are plenty of free tutorials out there and they are pretty high quality. So now let's jump straight into it, but before we do anything, we will of course search for the database, because there is an online database. If we type RPG Maker MV script call list, we have this MV thread, and if we click it, we can see a bunch of code. But of course, I'm not sure if you already have experience with it, but some of these are incorrect, some of these work, and some of these need extra clarification. So that's what this video is good for. So let's start, but I think I will start with the simplest part, the script command and the plugin command. Of course, as you can see, there is no script here, because it is kind of pointless to write a script inside a script, especially since you have a limit of 10 lines and cannot, not really 10 lines, but 12 lines, and cannot do underneath this. Nevertheless, the script is an eval command, which is a JavaScript command that is making a dynamic code possible, because it is a real-time compilation. By default, it is not useful in programming because it can be attacked by malicious code, but since you're making a game, it's quite okay here, because I don't think anybody would like to make a game just to hack others' computers. Underneath it we have plugin command, and if we take a look at the code, here we see some code, but this code is not really a call of a plugin command, it is a definition of a new plugin command. So that doesn't really belong here. If you want to call a plugin command, you simply, since we are inside an event, we are going to type this dot plugin command. Now if you need to call a certain plugin command, you need to know the command's name, and you need to know its arguments, which is an array. If you don't know what an array is, as I said, feel free to look up a JavaScript tutorial. Now of course, array of arguments has these brackets, and the arguments are separated by a comma. Now of course, since I don't have any plugins with plugin commands in my game, I won't really be using this. So now let's jump to the scene control. But in order to see anything useful, we need to jump into the game. And of course, while I have some events here, neither of them really contains the script calls, so I will be instead using the dev console to type in these events manually. For the most part, it would be the same as if I would type them inside the events script command, but this allows me to type in the event commands in real time without having to bloat my events. So first of all, let's see the battle processing. Now this command works just fine. If I copy it, paste it here, let's say troop ID 1, because we want to battle some bats. Let's say, of course, next to it we have some command. So first, true or false is allowing for escape. We want to be allowed to escape. And the second, true or false, is to be allowed to die. So why not? Now, of course, as you can see, we already have a battle. So now, let's take a look at the battle commands. Of course, the battle commands, for example, changing enemy HP, that works just fine. Now, if you want to be able to kill the enemy, you will use this. If you don't want to be able to kill the enemy, it will be just enough to use the similar thing to the changing enemy MP. Instead, you'll simply substitute the MP for HP. So now, of course, if I want the enemy to gain HP, I will enter a positive value. If I want him to lose HP, I will enter the negative value. We can't really confirm it, but the only way to confirm it is to enter a really low value, for example 999. Oops, I forgot to specify the enemy index, 0, because indexes and other things in programming languages starts from 0. There are some exceptions to it where the first member of the array is a null, but this is not the case. So now if I attack the bat number 1, I can't attack him because he is considered dead because he has negative value of HP. But he is of course not dead because we haven't killed him. Now of course other commands, gaining MP and TP is the same, adding state and removing state works as well. That's similar for the actors. Recover all of course recovers all, so let's recover our bats. Oops. Zero, recover all. Now if we attack him, we of course can attack him because his HP is back to full. Now enemy appear, this is useful only if the enemy is hidden. Since we have both enemies visible, we can't really make one appear. If I want to transform the enemy, let's say I want to transform the first enemy to a slime, because why not? For some reason it did not work. Oh, I see. I did not transform him to a slime but to a bat. If I input the correct enemy ID, which you can find by the way inside the database, it will take these IDs of enemies. So 1 is a bat, 2 is a slime, 3 orc, and 4 minotaur. Now show battle animation should work just fine. Oops. So let's see, let's paste it, let's show an animation 1. On our slime, and as you can see, it works just fine. Now, force action, as you can see here, we have an action that's forced by a party member or a troop member. Party members are allies and troop members are enemies. And if I want to force an action, I'll copy this. Now, I want, let's say, Harold to use a basic attack to the first enemy. Now, of course, if I type just this, nothing happens because we are in the menu, so the game is frozen. This command is intended to work only when an event is processing or when the battle is happening. So if I, let's say, type in the for attacks, now I can type Harold attacks. Now I force Harold to attack, Harold attacks, Harold attacks, Harold attacks, Harold attacks, or Lucius attacks because I did not do it in time, but Harold attacks again. So as you can see, forcing action works. So let's abort the battle now. And we are out of the battle. Now keep in mind that, of course, you won't really be using the dev console while making your game. You will be typing the event commands here if you will be using the script calls. So let's take a look at some other commands. And I apologize if I was loud, but the music was just so loud that I had to speak more loudly to hear myself. So of course, let's jump into the more scene control commands. And now, of course, we are entering the phase where not exactly every command will be precise. For example, the scene shop command, if I take a look here, we have shop processing. If I copy it and paste it into the console, it will simply crash because this is not enough. We need to have a list of shop items that will be sold or bought, otherwise it will not work. Of course, there is no simple way to set up this shop item list, so this command should not be used using a script command. It should only be used using the normal event command for simplicity. If you, of course, would like to set up your shop through scripts, I would recommend you to learn some JavaScript and dig through the game scripts, because as you can see, it even crashed, so we will have to restart the game. Name input processing, if we copy it and paste it. Actor ID, let's say I want to rename Harold, he has ID 1, and name length will be, let's say, 8, because why not? So let's rename, oops, I close the console now. So let's rename Harold to, let's say, Barold. Now if I hit OK and open the menu, we can see that our hero is renamed. Opening the menu screen will work fine. Opening the save screen will work fine too. Now of course I don't want to save, so I'll close it. Opening the load will work too, naturally. Of course I don't have any save files, so this will be unavailable. Now this is how you create the save file. I will create it just to demonstrate, but I won't really be using it. Index is not defined, so I will have to define it. Let's say I want to save the game into the index 1. And now of course If we take a look at the load, at the scene load, we will see there is a save in the first place. We can of course load it using the code. If I just take a small bulk, I can then copy this, open the console. Index is not defined once again, so I'll define it. And as you can see, we are back where we started. So we have loaded successfully. So now I'll remove the save file. This code works just fine. Now if I want to open the scene load, I can see there is no save file anymore. Oops. This is a call to delete all save files. Of course I won't be using it since I won't have any. Now if I want to, for some reason, end the game, I can do just this. It is fully fine. And jumping to the title will work too. So what do we have here? That is all from the scene control, but there are some extra commands if you want to copy the position of event, or you can even copy the position of player if you replace game map.event with game player. And of course here we have call event, which underneath there is a link to a Unfly plugin, but if you ask me, I don't really know if using a plugin is simpler than one simple script call. So now that we have discovered, let's take a look at the system settings. Of course, I don't think you'll hear the background music because I am not recording system sound, but I think the rest might be interesting. So of course, if I want to change the battle background music, I'll copy this. And now if I take a look at the game system dot underscore battle BGM, I can see that this variable is null, which means the default battle BGM will play. If I overwrite it and check it once again, I can see the battle BGM is now Town 1. Of course, I'm not going to try it since you won't hear it anyway, but I don't even think it will go safely, because if you don't have this BGM, it will crash instantly the moment you enter battle. This would be the same, and now if I want to change the vehicle BGM, I can do that just fine too. And enabling and disabling save will work fine. If I enter the menu, I can see this save is enabled. So if I want to disable it, I'll simply hit the console. And now if I go to menu, save is disabled. If I want to enable it once again, so I simply copy it, paste it, and I can save once again. Changing encounter will work just like that, and formation will of course work just like that too. There is no need to demonstrate, but just for clarity, I can now enter formation, and I can enter formation. Now changing the window color is not as simple as written here, because if we take a look inside the code, we can see that the game system.prototype.setWindow tone, in other words the function here, only accepts one parameter and not 4, which means it should not be the 4 parameters written separately, but they should be inside one array. Also, if we take a look inside RPG windows, we can see that the update tool accepts only 3 parameters, so the gray parameter is completely useless and won't do a single thing. But I will demonstrate that. Let's say I want to make it red, 255.00. And now let's say I want to add the gray, just to demonstrate it won't do anything. And just so you believe me that it updates in real time, I'll change it to yellow. Now the good thing on updating on real time is that if you have some sort of a loop or update function that fires every single frame, you can make these windows change color every single frame. However, the bad thing is if you use this function, it will recolor all windows. So let's recolor it back, 0, 0, and delete this parameter since it's useless. And now, just for the clarification, oops, I accidentally closed the console. Let's just use these parameters outside of the array to show that it doesn't do anything. So for example, paste, and let's say 0, 255, 255, 255. By default this should bring us an azure color. Nothing. Setting the gray color to 0 of course does nothing as well, and even if I delete it, nothing happens. So as you can see, this should be really an array and nothing else. Changing actor images, this works without an issue. If I want to change the actor image, let's say for example, since I have 4 followers here, or the actor and 3 followers, I want to change Teresa to some image. So in order to do that, I'll paste it. Now Teresa is an actor with an ID 2, so I will be using 2 here. Now it is important to differentiate between ID and index, because ID will use the ID in the database and index uses the index in the sense of JavaScript index. Indexes starts from 0, IDs are IDs. So anyway, let's say I want to have an evil sprite, because why not, and index 1. Let's hit enter. Of course nothing will happen because we need to refresh. Oh, there are some nodes here that might need game player.refresh. So let's use this. And now we can see the second actor is evil. If I want to change the face image, this is the same process. So let's copy it. Now let's change Harold to monster, index 4. Oops, unexpected token. Yes, a colon instead of semicolon. There is a typo here. And as you can see, Harold now has this beautiful face. And of course, I can even change vehicles. Now vehicle ID uses 0 for the boat, 1 for the ship, and 2 for the airship. And since I only have an airship here, I will use the vehicle 2. Set image, let's say evil, because we like evil, and index 6. And it changes immediately, and of course I can now ride this beautiful girl. So that will be this, And what do we have next? Map. Changing map name display, of course, even though it is here, and even the window is here. If I hold Alt, it will show the window underscore map name, which means the window is here, it is just invisible. If I nevertheless enable the name display, I can see nothing happens. And even if I show somehow the window, game map dot underscore map name name display no map how is the window called? Oh, not game map. Scene manager dot underscore scene dot underscore map name window dot visible is true, but it is closed. So let's open it. Okay, it is open now. Open NS 255. But renderable is true. Show opacity is 0, yes. So let's make opacity to 255. The window is now visible, but of course there is nothing written on it. So that means, even though I have the map name right here, it is map 001, I can rename it, but it doesn't matter, the result is the same. The window is just broken because it is an empty window. So we can change now the tile set. Of course, tile set once again accepts the database. So let's do something crazy. And let's change the world tile set to tile set, let's say 2. And now we have a different tile set. If we change tile set 1 to 1, we have a different tile set, so that works just fine. Changing battleback accepts 2 parameters. One for the battleback 1 and the other for the battleback 2. If I take a look at the, where it is, not system, if I take a look at the map, we can see here specify battleback. This is battleback 1 and battleback 2. Now getting location info should work just fine. Oops, my bad. Here I will choose whatever I want by default, and here I have it provided the info here. So if I want to get a terrain tag of X and Y, let's say X will be 0 and 0 because I want the upper left corner. Of course the terrain tag is 0. If I open the database, take a look at the terrain tag, it checks out. So now we have this page covered. So let's take a look at the page 2. Now let's start with something easy, for example the weight, because it is lonely. If I take a look here, search for the weight command, I can see this.weight and frames. So that means that this command is only useful inside the script command. So I cannot use it in my console, I'd have to use it only inside this command. And of course I need frames, not seconds. So if I want to wait 1 second, I need to wait 60 frames. So now let's take a look at the movement. Transfer player. If we want to transfer player, in other words teleport him, we can use the reserve transfer. Now since we have only one map, it is rather easy with the map ID. I will only use one. Now of course all parameters here are available inside the command itself. Direct designation means we designate the coordinate, or I can designate it with variables here. Direction, down, left, up, right and up of course means which direction will be facing, and the direction is set like in numerical keyboard. So up would be 8, down 2, left 4 and right 6. And of course here we have fade, where 0 is black, white is 1 and none is 2. So let's say I am standing wherever. I want to teleport into the upper left corner. So map ID 1, x0, y0, or I can use some scripting here. For example, if I want to do it equal to heroes HP, that would be ridiculous, but why not? Game actors.actor1.hp, but of course we don't have a coordinate 450, so that would be irrelevant. If I want to, for example, equal to the value of a variable, game variables dot value 1, this will teleport me to the x coordinate equal to a variable 1, which is right now of course 0, so let's just type 0 state away. Direction, I want to be facing down. If you want to retain, of course you would probably use 0, and fade type, let's use black because why not. And we have teleported successfully. Underneath we have set vehicle location. Of course that's pretty much the same as with the teleporting. So if I want to teleport my boat to the upper left corner, I can do it just fine. Boat has vehicle ID 0, so let's teleport it to map 1, x0 and y0. Now of course, if I go to the upper left corner, I have a boat here that of course cannot move because it cannot swim through grass. If I want to set an event location, I can do it easily too. Now of course this is an advantageous command compared to here, because I can choose an event ID here, but I cannot choose it dynamically here. I can only choose the location based on variables, but I cannot choose the event ID dynamically. So for example, if I wanted to choose an event ID based on the variable, I would have to use the script. I would not use the command itself. But of course, since we have here only several events, I will just, for demonstration purposes, this event is an event 003. Let's move him, let's say 2, 2, and now he is here. Now checking event direction, of course, or setting event direction is self-explanatory. As I said, it is even explained here, the direction to left, right and up. if I want to find where game player is, or where player is, not find, if I want to set where player is, let's set him to 6 and 6. This teleported the player state away. I can even teleport the followers. So if you want, for example, some cutscenes where you teleport followers and don't want to set up the events, you can just teleport the follower. They start with, of course, since it's an index, they start with index 0. So let's teleport him to 6, let's say 8 and 11. Now an interesting thing here is that if you teleport followers to some different places, the followers will of course follow the followers. So this will follow the player, this will follow this follower, and this will follow this follower, which of course can create some funny situations. So now this event has disappeared, and if I now walk on the map, I have this bizarre sequence until they come together. So checking the direction should be easy. Let's simply copy this, paste it here, choose the follower, let's say 0, and direction, let's say down, and he has turned down. Now checking follower coordinates and direction, that's self-explanatory. So let's take a look at the map ID. It will of course work if I copy paste it. Displays our ID. And the more interesting thing here is this scroll map. Now of course, scrolling map is self-explanatory, we simply copy it, paste it. But what is interesting is there are some cases where when speed is involved, we can actually choose much greater speeds than we have here. So for example, by default the maximum is 6, so let's have 6. Distance, let's say 5, and direction we'll have it down. So that's pretty quick. But if we scroll back up at speed 12, it's even faster. In fact, it is instant. If we scroll back down with speed 7, you can see it is really the speed that is quicker. It is not like we'd input some invalid speed and it would teleport due to the result of invalid speed. And last but not least, we have zoom, which of course works as well. Now the X and Y coordinates of course are the so-called middle point towards which it will zoom. So let's say, I'm not really sure if it works, but let's say 0, 0, because why not? And let's say we want to zoom 2.5 times, and it should take us 2 seconds, so 120 frames. And as you can see, it will zoom towards the upper left corner. Inside the nose here we have the clear zoom function, so we can copy it. Oops. I said we can copy it. Paste it, delete this garbage text, and the zoom is back where it should be. Now here, of course, we can change the player camera position, but that doesn't mean it will change indefinitely, because even if we center, I don't know, let's say, 0, 13, when the player gets back and upwards, it will still center normally as it should. Set display position is pretty much equivalent to the game player center. I don't even know what is the difference between them, but I won't bother with it for now. And now here we have the set movement route. Now the set movement route, if we take a look inside the code, and we can see some parameters here, more importantly the command.code. So if we take a look at code, we are finally at the process move command function, which will show us these ridiculous names for the codes, and you definitely do not want to set up this. So for this reason, it is much better to set up the movement route classically in the event editor. If you open the event editor, this is much more straightforward. Now underneath it we have the default pathfinding, but it is not exactly default pathfinding, because while find direction 2 is finding a direction, it will only work, since we have the move straight, it will only work for one field. So if I input move straight, it will only move forward, and you'll have to input it again, so that is not efficient for pathfinding or something like that. Here we have the set destination, which of course pretty much works only for the player. So let's say set destination for 0 and 0, and the player will go up, and underneath we have the get on our vehicle. That of course works. If we're off the vehicle and we have a vehicle in front of us, we will get on it. If we're inside a vehicle, we need to turn to a better direction, then we can get out. Here we can get to our airship and board it. Oops. Let's continue to the character part, and if you're at any point of this video tired and want to take a break, feel free to do so. I'm not recording it all in one go either. So here we have change transparency. That is self-explanatory. If I copy it and paste it, set transparent is either true or false, so let's say true, of course, and as you can see, the player has disappeared. If I set the flag to false, he will reappear again. Showing and hiding followers will show and hide followers. So let's hide them, and it might need gameplay refresh, so let's use this. Now the followers are hidden. If I want to show them, I can show them. Fresh. Now show animation. As you can see, there is a character because you can use it for events, you can use it for the player, or even for the followers. So let's copy it, paste it, and let's say I want to show an animation centered around the last follower. So game player dot followers, and I think let's request animation punch, and let's of course set wait mode animation because otherwise we could move while the animation is playing. Oops. It's not a function, it's an array. Oh, game player dot underscore followers dot underscore data. That's another way to access the followers array. So this should work finally. Oh, and I forgot. This dot set wait mode is of course usable only inside an event, because the this means the game interpreter, which is only inside events. We can request a balloon icon as well. So let's request a balloon icon. Let's say 1. Oh, not character, game player. And of course these balloon icons are visible inside the game files. If we open the folder, image, system, balloon, we can see these icons, and of course this is the first one, this is the last one. And we can of course erase event. So let's erase event 3, which is up there. And the event is erased. Now of course that means that if we teleport into the map, the event will be back because it's not a permanent erase. So let's teleport back using the transfer player command. So map ID 1, 3, 3, direction 0, let's retain facing, and face type 0. So we are back. Oh, and the event is not there because we need to change maps in order for the event to be reloaded. Okay, I forgot about that. So we need to restart the game. So let's move on to pictures, or maybe perhaps screens, because screens should be easier and they are above the pictures. So if we want to fade out the screen, let's show the screen, fade speed, let's say 1. We want to fade it. Oops. let's say 24. So as you can see, it is not really speed, but the time it will take in terms of frames for the screen to fade out or fade in. You can of course tint the screen. As you can see, the first parameter is an array, so you should not forget that. So let's tint it red, 255, 0, 0, and 0, and let's make it instantaneous. That does not look too red to me, but okay. Now flashing the screen is the same as tinting, except it will flash and then the flash will gradually disappear. Start shake will of course shake the screen. There's nothing wrong here. And of course we might be able to use a greater power than if we go here. So let's say the maximum power is 9, and there's also speed. So let's check what is power 9 and speed 2, duration 120 frames. Let's check speed 9, and now let's check speed, let's say 15. It will shake even faster. Weather effect is pretty much the same as here. Of course we can set the power higher as well, and here we choose depending on the string we want. So if I want, let's say, rain, power 9, duration 120, okay, that does not work. So let's see the definition. Okay, I need to type it lowercase. So rain. If I want to up the intensity, as you can see, it is raining heavier, and I can up it even further. 27 makes it even heavier. 55. We can't even see it anymore, so at least we can see it works. So let's turn it off. And that would be it for this. So let's get into showing pictures. Now showing pictures is a little bit complicated because there are many parameters. But if we copy it, we can of course find all the parameters here. If we take a look, show picture, here we have the number, which is the ID. It is from 1 to 100, and it cannot be bigger than 100 by default. Here of course we have the image name. I have an image blue sky from the parallaxes, so I'll use that. And here we have origin, either upper left corner or the center, which means of course either the pivot point will be at the upper left corner or it will be at the center. I usually use upper left corner unless the image I am using is full screen. Here of course we can have the X and Y. Scale X means width, scale Y means height. Of course it's a percentage. Opacity 0 to 255, where 0 is invisible, 255 is fully visible. And here we have blend mode, 0 for normal, 1 for additive, 2 for multiply, and 3 for screen. Now blend mode of course means that the picture will use a different equation to blend in with the background. So different backgrounds and different blend modes of course can cause different results. If you want to research that, I would highly recommend that, but I usually just use normal because I don't have any use for these other blend modes. So picture ID, let's set it to 100 because it's the maximum. Now of course by default the lower picture ID will be below the higher picture ID, so this is kind of a way to set a z index. In other words, which picture will be the higher priority. Name, blue sky, it is case sensitive, so you need to be careful. Origin 0, x 0, y 0, scale x 100, scale y 100. Now if you set it to -100, it will be mirrored. Opacity 255 and blend mode will be 0. And as you can see, we have this beautiful picture on our screen. But of course we cannot see anything. So let's fix it and move the picture. Now of course the difference between this and the show picture is that you don't use the name, you only use the duration instead. So we copy it, paste it here, picture ID 100, origin 0, x 500, y 0, scale x 100, y scale y. You know what, let's flip it just for the fun. Scale y -100, opacity, let's divide it by 2, 255 divided by 2, and let's round it down. Blend mode 0 and duration, let's say 3 seconds. And of course we cannot see it because the pivot point is at the top left corner, which is now the bottom left corner, so it has disappeared. If I move it down below, let's say 500 to the y-axis, we can see the image is there. It was just flipped because this is the origin. This is how you change the blend mode. The hashtag of course means the number, once again from 0 to 3. And of course here we can set the rotate picture, but the rotate picture is this function which if you set it, it will rotate the picture constantly. Now if you want to rotate the picture normally, like one time, you really can't, because even if you find the picture sprite inside the game code, the rotation won't work, which is kind of sad. But then of course we can tint the picture. Picture ID 100, tone is once again an array, 255, 0, 0, 0, duration 180, and we have here the beautiful picture. And let's erase it for now. And underneath we have the for loop. This will work, this is just fine. That will erase all pictures. So audio and video, this will work just fine, but I am not going to test it except for the graphics.playVideo because you won't really hear that. But of course, if you want to input a BGM or a soundtrack, this is the format how you want to put it there. So for example, if I copy audio manager .play BGM, I need to create an object which is inside curly brackets, and I need the name, colon, let's say Castle 1, my favorite theme from RPG Maker 2003, volume, by default it is 80, oops, you can take a look here, or by default it is 90, not 80, okay, volume 90. Of course, the advantage here is that you're not limited by the meter. Pitch, of course, is not limited either, so if you want to make it super fast or super slow, you can exceed these percentages. And of course panning, which will decide if it is mono or stereo. You can't really go above 100 or below minus 100 there. So let's say pitch 250, which will play it 2.5 times as fast as it normally does. Pan 0, because why not? Now if I hit enter, the Castle theme shall start playing, or maybe it won't, because I don't know if RPG Maker MV does not have it. It actually does, so this would start playing. But I don't want it to play, so I'll delete it. All other functions here work just as fine. The only thing that I might want to talk about, because it may contain interesting information, is playing video. Of course, this will work, and it is the only way to play videos in other format than you can access here, because if you want to access here videos using the play video command, you can only choose MP4. However, let's take a look inside the code, because I currently don't know how the path works. So play video, movies, okay, it is inside the movies folder, so I only provide the name and the extension. So I have a name or a video inside my folders. However, I just rename it because this is too large. So video.webm, and let's test it. Video.webm. Now it will either work or it won't work. One of these is possible. Sorry, I need to put it as a string. And as you can see, I have this beautiful video here. Oh, I see. The code was not lying. I just forgot that if you use the play movie command, it will automatically use this folder, and if you input it manually, you have to input the full file path. By the way, the // means that from the project home folder you enter the folder movies, and from that video.webm. So this would be this chapter. and we can finally move to the page 1. And now I'm going to leave this chapter last because there are some other chapters I want to cover first. So let's first start by the actor chapter. Now if we take a look at the actor chapter, this is pretty much the same as with the enemies we had in page 3. We are here. So if we want to change HP, I can use this. If I want to kill an actor, and if I don't want to kill him, I can just use gain HP instead. But since previously we used the gain HP, now let's actually use this to demonstrate that we can actually kill. So let's paste it, and let's kill Harold. We're going to revive him later. Damage, it needs to be a value, so he has 450 HP. KO true, and we can hit enter. If you use the call inside the script field, you don't even need to use this, you can just replace it for this. And not this, you will just use the change HP, this dot change HP. Of course, M is the actor, D is the damage, and KO is whether he needs to be KO'd. So now if we open the menu, we can see that the actor is not dead because I forgot that we need to input a negative value. So now he has 0 HP and he is dead. So now let's revive him. MB and TP is the same, so now let's revive him. In order to revive him, we need to remove the state, which of course, if we take a look at the database, we can see knockout state is state 1. So if we remove it, hit enter, refresh the menu, we can see Harold is revived with only 1 HP. If we add the state to a different actor, refresh it, we can see the different actor is dead. Of course, here we have a call for every member in party to recover. So let's use it. And they're back to full health. Here you have once again other stuff, gaining XP. If you want them to lose XP, you use negative value. Changing level. Here you have the notes that if you want to show the level up, you will input true or false as the second parameter. Here you have the changing parameters, which is equivalent to this. Learn skill and forget skill, of course, teaches or lets the actor forget skill. If you want to add all skills, you can use this script call. So let's teach Harold all skills. Oops. Skill. He now has heal, fire, and spark, as opposed to only heal and spark. Changing equipment of course works as well. However, here we need to be careful because the item really means the item and not just item ID. So if we copy it, paste it, let's give Harold instead of a sword or whatever he has. He has a sword. Let's give him a stick. Oops, I forgot. This is an invalid item. Data weapons tool, because even though it is index, there is a null. However, it will not work because the X is not equipable. Alright, I finally realized where the mistake was. First of all, I cannot equip a weapon type that cannot be equipped to the hero, so I could not equip a non-sword weapon to Harold. So to mitigate that, I created another weapon, called sword. And of course, you cannot equip a weapon that is not in your inventory. So let's return to this later. And for now, let's just change the actor's name. Of course, we can do that easily. The code is no problem. If I want to change Harold to Barold, I can do that easily. Set name Barold. Of course, it has to be some form of a string. And now we have a Barold instead of a Harold. We can of course change the class. So, in order to not mess up with Harold, let's change Terry's this time. Actor ID 2, change class 1, so she is a knight, keep backspace true or false, so let's say true. She doesn't have any anyway. So now she is a hero as well. Setting nickname and setting profile will of course work as well, but that is visible only in the status. So we have this covered. So let's go to the party, and of course, in order to change gold, it is very easy. We just go here, gain party, gain gold works. Oops. So I want to gain 5,000 gold, or 500. Now I have 500 gold. Now if you want to set the gold to a flat value, you won't use this function. Instead you'll use game party dot underscore gold equals 2000, and now you have 2000 gold. So if you want to gain some sum, you will use the gain gold. If you want to set the value to be flat, you will use this. Of course, you cannot set the value to be flat somewhere here unless you use some control variable shenanigans. Change items of course works. Changing weapons and changing armors works too. So let's gain some items. Let's say I want to gain 50 potions. item, we now have 50 potions, and for some reason we have an X. Gaining weapons and armors will be the same, and of course we also have a function in order to gain all items, and underneath we have a function to gain all items that have a name, so we won't have our inventory bloated with empty named items. Of course, here we can add or remove actor. Now the advantage of this is that if we try to add an actor, we cannot add an actor into the party that already is in the party. So we first have to remove it, so let's remove Lucius, and now we can finally add him. And in fact, let's try to add Therese again just for this demonstration. As you can see, we have not added her. So let's add Lucius back. Checking party leader, this equation works. Of course, you substitute the ID with a number. So let's say actor ID, of course since it's an ID, we have to go from 1. So for Harold it is true, for Therese or any other member it would be false. And checking party index of the character. Once again works. We just have to replace the actor ID. Once again it's an ID, so if we want to check Harold's place in the party, it's 0, in other words he is first. Therese is second, Lucius is fourth, so it will be 3. Lucius, it is 3. Well, while cutting the video, I realized I completely forgot to record how to swap weapons using the code. So first of all, we of course need to gain the weapon. Game party, weapons 5 equals 1. So now we have the large sword. And now let us change it. Game actors dot actor 1 dot change equip. And now I typed previously 1 because I thought it was from 1, but I completely forgot it is actually 0. 0 for weapons, 1 for equipment. So 0 data weapons 5, and now our actor finally has a cooler sword instead of a sword. So this is how you change equipment via JavaScript. Of course, you need to remember that you have to have the sword. If I did not have it, this wouldn't have happened. So that would be the party. Now all we have left are the control switches, flow control, and the messages. So game progression control switches, it is self-explanatory. Game switches dot set value number, where the number is ID, true or false. You have some useful notes here as well. So if I set the switch to 1, switch 1 to true, hit enter, and now go to the game, hit F9, which opens the debug menu. I can see that the switch 1 is on, so let's turn it back off. Or you know what, let's just turn it back off in the console. If I refresh the debug menu, it is off. Control variables is the same, except you won't set true or false, although you could, but it's not viable. You will instead set values. And of course, you don't even need to set just numbers. You can even set arrays or anything else. It will just act weird if you try to display it in the debug menu. So let's say I want it to have an array of numbers 1, 2, 3. Now, if I want to show the variable value of 1, it is 1, 2, 3. Let's show it in the debug menu just for the fun. It looks pretty okay, but of course, if you try to add or decrease the numbers, it will break instantly because... oh, it won't break, it won't actually do anything at all. Interesting. Of course, underneath you have the array adding into variable. Now controlling self-switch is a little bit more complicated because you need the map ID, event ID, and of course the letter. So for self-switches, I have an event that demonstrates it. This event by default has all self-switches off. Oh, it's not this event. It's this event. Yes. If I turn self-switch A on, it will change. So let's go near. As you can see here, it looks like this. And if I move it to the side, just so you can see, let's copy it. Map ID 1, event ID 3, and self-switch A needs to be a string. Let's hit enter, and now he of course has changed. Display that self-switch for him is now on. This is how you clear all self-switches per event. It should work without an issue. Oops, something is wrong. So let's try to set it manually. Game self switches dot set value key which is 1. Oh yes, I forgot that this dot underscore map ID does not work in the console because this dot underscore map ID works only inside an event, because once again this is the events interpreter. So 1, event ID 3, letter A, false. So we have set it to false, and of course he is back to his original state. This is how you clear all self-switches regardless of map. And of course here we have a timer. And now a timer, I have some notes here, because the timer starts in frames, and also it will immediately decrease the time you have in the seconds. So if you want to display like 3 seconds, you need to have 181 frames. So let's start the timer. Oops. (180). You can see it starts at 2 and 181. It started at 3 and immediately jumped to 2. So that will be this, and of course underneath we have the flow control. Now flow control is pretty simple because conditional branch is a simple JavaScript if-else case. So for example, if game variables dot value equals 1 and game variables dot value 2 equals 2, you would do some stuff. This is just JavaScript, so I'm not going to explain it too much. Loop and break loop is a while loop. Again, that's the basic JavaScript. Exit event processing. This should be just fine, but I cannot of course demonstrate it here because I'm using the console. If you want to exit game, you can use this. It will immediately close the game. Using common event should work fine, although I'm not sure if it works in the console. I don't have a common event, I think. Oh, I have one, so we can try it. So reserve common event 1, oops, 1, and the message shows, so it works even from the console. And now label. Of course, label does not need anything regarding scripting, but jump to label might be interesting, and of course the command here is missing. However, I have a function inside my nodes. You can use this line, this.command119, and of course the label name, which you define by label. It is a string, so be careful about that. Of course, I am not able to demonstrate it from the console, but it should work because you are calling a command inside RPG_objects. In other words, inside the core script, you are calling one of the commands just as it is defined. So it should work without issues. And command, you don't really need to use this inside a script field, so I'm going to skip it, but it's a basic JavaScript anyway. So now the only thing that is left is the message. So of course we can start by show text. Show text works just fine. I copy it and paste it. Actor 1, let's say, why not? Background 1, set position type. Of course, once again, all parameters can be found here. This is the face image, actor 1, and index starts from 0 and in 7. This is 3, this is 7. Set background, 0 for window, 1 for dim, 2 for transparent. Window position, top, middle, bottom, or rather bottom, middle, top. Let's find out. And let's leave this text as it is and hit enter. Okay, so it is indeed top, middle, bottom. So if you want to have it in the bottom, you set the position to 2. If you want to input number, that is easy. Simply copy it, paste it, variable ID, let's say to variable 1, and let's say 4 digits. And this of course crashes because I cannot do this from the console. So let's restart the game. Of course, if you try to do it from the script, it will work just as it should. If I just put it from the console, it won't work. So let's go back into the game. Open the console. Select key item. Of course, here I need to be careful, because if I open the menu without any items, and that is true even for the event command, I will, as you can see, variable ID here and n, which is covered there, and means this item type. Of course, since I don't have any items in my inventory, it means that the menu is empty and I cannot really choose anything. Show scrolling text works just fine. The advantage, of course, is that here I am only limited, I am limited at the max speed. So if I want, let's say, scrolling speed 8, no fast forward through, we can see the text is scrolling pretty fast. But if it is not fast enough, you can simply set the scrolling speed even faster, or even faster. Showing gold window is not accurate because even though this will show the gold window, the second line is totally worthless, by the way. You won't have any way to reference it. So if the gold window changes, the gold value changes, you won't have any way to refresh the window and display the correct gold value. So to mitigate this, I have in my notes a line that creates a window, associates it to the current scene, and unlike here where it is at child, I am using at window. The difference between these two is at child adds the child to the current scene, while at window adds the window to the window layer. Meaning if I add the child to the current scene, it is above all layers, in fact above all pictures, so that might look weird if you show picture and there is a gold window above that. So let's copy it. Now of course I don't have any gold, so let's have some gold. Equals 350, 3500. And now if I use the script there, I would not be able to refresh the window. Now the only thing I need to do is call scene.scene.gold window .refresh, and boom, the gold window has been refreshed and the value is correct. And last but not least, we have the show choices, which of course theoretically is correct, because if I copy it and paste it, hit enter, it works just fine. I can select one of the choices, and if I select it, nothing happens. The reason for that is because there is nothing to tell what should happen after the choice is made. In order to mitigate that, of course, I have some choices here. So let's copy this. And now if we paste it, we can see that there is a line game_message.set choice callback. In other words, it tells the choice what should happen on a choice. So let's hit enter. And now of course I have written a helpful window too by adding the game_message.add underneath it. So it will tell us this line, and of course, depending on my choice, for example, if I increase variable 3, let's open the debug menu. Variable 3 is 5, so it works just fine. If I do it once again, increase variable 4, it works just fine. Variable 4 is 5. However, this is not the only thing you can do with it, of course. With show traces handled via script, if you know some JavaScript, you can do really cool things. For example, instead of this bloated event we have here, you can easily have some sort of a more... Oops, my microphone just fell. You can easily have some sort of a better, more structured way by simply using something else. For example, here underneath it we have an event that is currently here, but of course depending on which switch is active, he will have a different page. So switch 2 will look like this, 3 will look like this, 4 will look like this, and 5 will look like this. Of course, given the priority, if 2 and 4 are on, the 4 will be active, but that's irrelevant for now. Oops, that was my bad. So let's do this. So now I'll activate page 2. I'll activate page 4. I'll activate page 5. Simply by turning on the switches. That means if I want, I can, instead of that large chunky tree, have this simple switch made hierarchy, or I don't know how to call it, switch made tree. Okay. Of course, you can do the same just in normal events. However, I don't think that if I do show traces like this, then control switches to OK, no, would be as clear as this script call. Of course, you don't need to worry. I will put this script call into the description, so you can just copy paste it and do whatever you want with it. Nevertheless, there is also another option, and that is using the labels. For example, you can, instead of calling the switches, you can use the jump to label function. So instead of the game switches.setValue, you would have this. You would copy just this and use different labels. So for example, I could do the label SSS, label AAA, and I can have here some texts just for the fun. And now here I can have jump to label, not jump to label, here I can have the script command, paste, here the jump to label instead of this, and it would simply, given the choice, jump to the label. So I could have all that inside in one page, except it would not be so cluttered. However, since we have the full power of JavaScript, there are some other cool things we can do. For example, this is just for bragging rights, nothing special. If I paste the last function there, we can choose one of these three, where the first one will increase variable 20 by 5. And so let's see, variable 20, it is 5. If I do it once again, it will be 10. If I choose the second these two party members, the second and the last, have swapped. If I do it once again, they will swap back. And of course this will show a random message. In other words, it is a JavaScript alert, nothing spectacular, but here you go. And of course this was only handled by a custom function defined inside a custom plugin. Please ignore this is just testing from something else. Here you have the custom function. Of course, you can set literally anything you want here. You're not limited by anything, so if you want to do something cool, I really recommend you to learn some JavaScript, and even the basic JavaScript knowledge can help you do a ton of things. So, I think this would be it. If you have any questions or any requests, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.